you will have some idea that is really a work, phenomenal work, which can impact our organizations, not only in India but across the world. All right, with this, I'll start sharing my screen.
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just first to understand the concept, I will request you to go through this poll. Now,
Yeah,
this poll is basically how do you rate your ethicality in comparison with others, maybe in your department or in your um, in University of Hyderabad, whoever you know. Ethicality. What do you mean? I mean, whatever you understand by the ethicality, how do you rate yourself? Are you more than average, above average in your ethicality, or you are average, or you are below average? Just write honestly, and there is no, I mean, there is anonymous sort of survey. Just want to show you. I just want to show you something. So Murugan sir, can you just launch that? I am not able to see any of those things. So
Yes, sir. I just launched the polls that is available in the poll section. I hope everyone could able to see the poll. Just go to that three star and then click polls. There you will be able to get the poll. Yeah, people are voting, sir.
okay.
So we are getting mixed responses, above average, average,
Okay.
or below average, no votes so far.
Okay. Great. So if you have received sufficient responses, you can close it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Still, I'm getting. Yeah, I request everyone to visit the poll option and then just respond to this question.
Sir, I'm not getting the option.
Now, Ajay, after the chat window, you have something called activities, right? There you just press, and then the second option is polls. You just click polls, there you'll be able to get everything. Able to locate the option, Ajay?
No, sir.
All right, no problem. I mean, just want to have a rough idea how the results are coming. If there are maybe
So
around
we are getting mixed responses, sir, for above average and average. Below
uh,
average, zero responses so far.
okay. So how much? What percentage is above
50
average?
50, sir. 50 is like above average and average, sir.
All right. Okay. Great. Great. So you can stop that. Now that is
Fine, sir.
exactly I want to talk to you about. Of course, the sample size is low, but on an average, if you see the concept of average itself is what? Concept of average is, I mean, average should have the higher frequency, and the below average and above average should be on the maybe the slide of normal distribution. But consistently, when we do this poll across organizations, across different cohort, we get the same result that hardly anybody says that he is below average, or he or she is below average. And most of the time I get a high percentage of above average, normally in the range of 70 to 80%, and maybe around 20 to 30% uh, um, average. And except for, I mean, I would have conducted this poll maybe 50 or 60 times, and each with a participant group of 50 numbers and above. Till now, hardly one or two people, participant, would have said that they are below average. Now, why this happens? This is normally, I mean, this happens only because um, either we consider overestimate our own ethicality, or we are not able to see our own ethicality, but we are able to see others' unethical behavior. That means there is some sort of bias that we are more ethical than we actually are. And this is what is actually called, this what is called ethical blindness, our inability to see our own unethical behavior. or compared to what we see in others. So I'll give a quote from here from HBR. It's a very famous quote. Good managers often make unethical decisions and don't even know about it. So if you don't have to be an unethical person to bring down an organization. People make unethical decisions even without their awareness. Good managers, they can bring down the organization without their awareness. So the objectives, what I'm trying to do is to make you understand what is bounded ethicality. And then we'll come to some of the organizational causes of bounded ethicality, implicit biases. These are called implicit biases, moral disengagement, and ethical fitting. I'll explain to you all these in a while, and then I'll tell you about the research I had done, and from that probably you can also get some idea of what future research opportunities are there in this particular field. Now, bounded rationality. The concept comes first from bounded rationality. I don't know how many of you have heard of bounded rationality. It's a term coined by the Nobel Prize laureate Herbert Simon. Bounded rationality basically is our inability to take fully rational decisions. That means completely optimized decisions. And why we aren't able to fully make fully rational decision? Because of certain our cognitive limitations. We are not able to achieve and we are not able to conceive what are the future consequences of each of these actions or each of these decisions, because we have our working memory is limited. It cannot perceive everything in future is going to happen. So that is one cognitive limitations. And you must be knowing about heuristics. Heuristics are basically mental shortcuts. Now, in organizations, especially, this happened many a time. I'll tell you an example. I mean, you may not have much organizational experience, but then it is easy for it to understand. Suppose I want to have to implement a decision, and I tell that to my subordinate, you go and do this activity. Now, the subordinate, if he's a rational person, he comes back to me and said, and I'm having a session, I'll call you back. He'll come back to me and say, sir, but this your decision may not be right, and this have this consequences, this can have that consequence. So if I am a completely rational person, I will discuss with him and then see what is meant by it, and then try to find there is truth in it. But then I am under different pressures. So what I do is I tell him that all this I thought of it before. Yeah, you implement what I tell you. No, I mean, why you are coming and arguing with me again and again? You implement it. Go and implement it. And he does, yes, sir, because that is our hierarchy. He said, yes, sir, and he goes away. Now, I find that is very easy to be done. There is no rational argument I have to do with him. And of course, rational argument, you know that it consumes your mental energy. So I'll conserve my mental energy by using these heuristics. And therefore, because I use heuristics, many of those, part of the decision tree, I am not analyzing. I am just letting it go. Another thing is cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is again biases which cognitive biases, predictable biases, and then it affects your decision. Probably you would have heard of a bias called anchoring bias. That is the first information which comes to you. It anchors into your mind and it molds your decisions without your own knowledge that your decision is being molded by a certain bias called anchoring bias. Because of all these characteristics, you do not take a very rational decision or optimal decision while you are making and doing a decision making. With this, I hope you can participate in the discussion also. you know that Russian invasion of Ukraine has happened recently. Now, if I state that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was a result of the bounded ethicality of President Putin, how will you substantiate it with these cognitive limitations, heuristics? And you know about what has happened from the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, isn't it? So, if I tell you that to explain how the bounded rationality has affected President Putin's behavior, how will you say that? Can anybody say that? Yeah. Can anybody? I mean, you can say, you can. This is an open discussion. I mean, that is how we can learn on this quickly. If you see President Putin's cognitive limitations, heuristics, emotion, or cognitive biases, can you imagine how the bounded rationality would have affected his decision? Anyone? No?
Maybe some kind of ego status.
Right.
I mean, he's trying to maintain.
I'm not able to see any of you, but I you can say that you can. Who are you? And then you can say
Yeah,
that.
Murugan sir. I'm just saying.
Achha, achha, okay, okay,
Maybe
okay, okay,
maybe
okay.
he's trying to maintain some kind of status quo or
Right, right,
maybe
right.
ego
Yes, sir.
status.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I will tell you one of few examples of cognitive limitations of President Putin. Now, President Putin would not have known that when he attacked, because he had attacked Crimea initially, and then he found that, oh, in three days I could occupy Crimea very easily, so I can occupy also Ukraine so easily. And they put the paratroopers into Kiev, and they try to capture it. He thought that it's so easy because we have done it in Crimea and this, but he was not aware that by that time Ukrainians had learned a lesson, and then they have also done a lot of homework and done the training. They approached the European Union. They have been trained and they have got enough resources to fight back. You are not fully aware of it. So that is one cognitive limitations of Ukraine. Heuristics, mental shortcuts, because he found that sending paratroopers. I'm trying actually simplifying the whole thing here to make you understand. Paratroopers went to Crimea. They captured in 3 days. So he thought that's a shortcut. That's the easy way. Capture the capital. So he sent it to Kyiv. But then they were ready, and then they were repulsed. Emotion of the superiority. I mean, as Dr. Murugan Kadli said, their ego that has colored his thought process. Russians are superior, and Ukrainians, because Soviet Union was a great empire, so Russia is superior, and others will fall in line. Cognitive biases. So cognitive bias, I can't immediately say something, but then so many anchoring biases, which some report the intelligence agencies sent to President Putin, that they will immediately fall. That is the tendency. I mean, what we know from the newspapers, that the intelligence agencies gave a very favorable reply before the start of the war to Putin, and since it was the first information which came, probably it would have affected him. So because of this, what has happened? The war, which was supposed to end in 3 days flat, has now gone to 250 days plus, and at what cost? So this is the result of bounded rationality. If you're not able to see, I mean, we don't know it can come into a third war as a consequence of all these things. So it can really. So if it can cause such a damage to the world as such, then you can think how much damage it can cause to the organizations also. It's a great area. We can do some research. I'm trying to play this. Now I'm coming to second part of it. We're coming to organization. I'm trying to play this. So this also has a small sound, and it's a very fussy video, so you may not be able to see it very properly. It is intentionally fussy. And then it is 40-second video. There's a basketball game playing on between two teams. One is white shirts and one second is black shirts. I written on top black shirts and white shirts. What you have to do in this 40 seconds is to count the number of passes made by the black shirts, to count the number of passes made by the black shirts. That's it, nothing else. You have to focus totally as if this is your research area. You have to publish in a journal about this thing. I mean, that much intensity you have to focus and accurately. It's difficult, but you have to accurately find that. All right. I'm starting this video. I hope if you're not able to see the video, you tell me, then we'll skip this.
Yeah, sure, sir. You can
Yeah.
please.
Is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. It should not be there. So, can we say, I mean, how many of you counted? I mean, how many numbers you counted? Maybe you can put in the chat box. How many passes the black shirts made? Maybe you can put in the chat box. Maybe Murugan sir, then you can tell me what are the numbers.
Yeah, 11, 13, myself 13, 15, 14, 12, 10, 14, 10,
Okay.
14.
Okay. So
So,
how many of
yeah,
the participants actually that is number is correct number is 20. How many of the
fine, sir.
participants now saw uh, a woman walking with an umbrella there? Yes or no? I mean, that also you can put in the chat box. Did you see
Yeah,
anybody? Did you see anybody with the umbrella passing in the during the game?
I think there are some S's coming, sir, but
Mm.
personally, I have not noticed anything. Yes, yes, yes. There are some S's, sir.
And nose? There are nose.
No, sir, so far nothing.
Acha, it's a good, very attentive. But if you are actually focusing fully and count the 20 numbers as it is expected, where your focus is fully on that activity, then there is a less chance that you will see that woman passing with the. I'll show you somewhere here. If you are
Yeah,
not seeing it,
yeah, there is a no, and did not notice the umbrella, but the woman. These are the few more
you can
responses.
see that there's a
Yes,
woman with the
yes,
umbrella passing.
yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
So, I mean, this is a very world famous experiment, and it shows that if you are fully focused on counting that numbers, there is less chance that you are able to see that woman passing with the umbrella.
Very true.
Yeah. So that is the essence of bounded awareness, that you are not able to conceive or perceive everything which is happening around you if you are focusing on a specific target, a specific thing. And from that concept we come to ethical blindness, or what we call bounded ethicality or moral blind spot. I mean, various terms can be used interchangeably, and with little small differences maybe among the but conceptually it all remains the same. uh, so one cause is the organizational causes. Organization causes are basically pressure of goals. I think I have a slide. Let me see. Yeah, slide is there. The pressure of goals and timelines. When we are working under intense pressure in an organization to achieve our targets, goals given by the organization in a specific timeline, we are missing some of those aspects uh, which are should be part of decision making. That is the moral aspects, the moral aspect. Because these are not moral, nobody questions on moral aspect when the goals are set, so we try to we avoid and we focus only on those specific. So one is pressure of goals and timelines can cause. I'll tell you with an example. Second is excessive obedience to authority, because especially in India we have paternalistic culture, isn't it? Compared to the West, our culture is more hierarchical. There is a lot of, I mean, from the very beginning of your life, you are being asked to touch the feet of your parents, your guides, and your teachers, and then when you come to organization, there is a steep hierarchy. You have to say salute, good morning, and all these things to your boss first. And because of this, we have a very tight patternistic culture, and therefore we are tend to have excessive obedience to authority, to the extent that even unethical instructions are obeyed without being aware of it. I will tell you those example also. Then there is again impact of power and roles. When the power blinds many a time, you know that, isn't it? And once you are in a position of power, you find that there is sort of psychological entitlement, and then you are you sometimes you don't think about the morality and unconsciously. Then again there's a pressure of organization. I'll tell you all these things in a little while. Then comes moral disengagement. I'll explain that. It's a new concept maybe to some of you, but a lot of research is going on moral disengagement. Then about implicit biases, our unconscious biases. I told you about cognitive bias, like anchoring bias. There are other biases like in-group bias, conflict of interest, which is affecting organizational decision making. Um, then I'll also tell you about some of those other psychological aspects called slippery slope or ethical fading, and consisting of slippery slopes and euphemism. Briefly, I'll tell you, touch upon the subject so that it ignites your passion, and then maybe some of you will go into those variables which are related to all these. I mean, these are some of the things which are of enormous interest to interest to industry, and can impact the industry as such. Let me tell you first about 1 minute. Let me tell you first about the pressure of goals. You would have heard of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, which happened sometimes in 1984 or 1983, where 7 astronauts were killed. Now, there is a beautiful story or paper on this unfortunate incident. And the primary reason for this launch failure has been identified, that the NASA engineers were under some subtle pressure to meet the deadlines. Why? Because the space shuttle program has been launched with much fanfare, and there have been a lot of public and political pressure to conduct more launches. I understand that the initial concept was they should do around 50 launches per day, per annum, and NASA was able to was doing only around 3 numbers or something like that. And therefore, when the contractors for the launch, Morton Thiokol, said that there could be a problem with the O-ring, with a single O-ring, or you imagine, with a small O-ring, that is the whole cause of tragedy of the whole tragedy of Spatial Challenger. NASA was, I mean, they were not very happy to postpone the launch, and there was some subtle pressure here and there, and finally they all came around and say that okay, we can go for the launch. Now we have to understand that NASA engineers were not unethical as such. They were not unethical. They are great guys. You can't find better guys than NASA engineers. But then, because there was the pressure of timelines, they failed to evaluate the moral implication of neglecting that small the problem that can be caused by the small O-ring. That means even the best managers, as the earlier quotation I showed you from HBR, even the best managers make unethical decisions under certain circumstances. So this is the ethical blindness, a perfect example of ethical blindness caused by uh, the organizational pressure, maybe goals or maybe targets or something else. Now we'll go on to the next thing, that is the Milgram experiment. Now the Milgram experiment is a very famous experiment. Again, I think sometimes conducted in 1964 or something like that, by Professor Stanley Milgram of Yale University. Now, why did he do that experiment? He wanted to show that obedience to the authority can lead to unethical behavior, and it could be unconsciously if they could be doing it. So briefly, I'll tell you the experiment. I will have to be quick here because of we have our time is limited. So there are experimenter. There's an experimenter, Professor Stanley, and then here he recruited participants randomly as teachers, and there are learners who are actual actors, which are recruited by Professor Stanley. Now, teachers did not know that these learners are professional actors. Teachers also thought that learners are also like them, uh, randomly recruited. The work provided to the teachers was that the teachers were told that Professor Stanley is actually experimenting how punishment can lead to better learning process. Okay, so they're told that teachers have to say some few words, and that has to be repeated correctly by the learners. If they are making a mistake, apply electric shock starting from 25 volt, gradually increase up to 40 volt. If the 450 volt, you imagine 450 volt, imagine when they are making multiple mistakes. When the experiment started, you know that actually there was no electric connection here. It was removed. Even though they are cuffed here as in the thing and all, that is only teachers thought that it is like this. Actually, there was nothing. It was not connected. So the experiment started. The learners purposefully made mistakes and then started the electric shock. 25 volt is nothing, and then they start increased to 100, and it's 130 volt, 150 volt, and all these things. Then they began to make noises, protesting noises. Learners, oh, it's teacher, it's hurting me. Don't do this. Give this much shock and all these things. Stop it. All this. Then it came to, so some of the teachers turned to Professor Stanley and asked Professor Stanley, should I stop, because this pupil seems to be suffering. So the Professor Stanley said in a very authoritative voice, "No, I'm the boss. I know what I'm doing. You have been recruited. You obey my instruction. That's all. You obey my instructions." So they continued, and 250, 300, 350 volt and all, they began to scream, the learners, "Leave me, Professor Stanley, I don't want your bloody money. You let me go, I have children," and all these things. They want to scream. Teachers went on applying volt up to 450 volt. Exactly 65% of the teachers applied 450 volt. What they thought is 450. Actually, there was no voltage is applied, but what they thought as 450 volt. Only 35% stood up and said, "Hell with it. I'm not going to do this unethical thing of putting shock into pupil. I'm away. I'm going away." Before the experiment, everybody had said that they will not apply 40 volt. But as experiment progressed, 65% applied electric this much voltage. And what the conclusion Professor Stanley got? The conclusion was that it is because of the authority of voice, authority expression by the Professor Stanley, that teachers complied with these instructions. Just like sometimes we comply the instruction of our superior, you comply your instructions of your guide. Maybe some of them was unethical. Because of the power of authority, we do comply certain instructions. And these instructions we don't feel that they are unethical. It has come from the boss, and we unconsciously we obey because we think that is the right thing to do, and that is the excessive. I mean, it damages the organization like anything. It can put the organization to huge trouble. Such excessive obedience to authority, and especially India. How many whistleblowers are there in India? You tell me. How many? You can hardly find anything. But you can see that very now and then there are whistleblowers even from Google, from Facebook, from Wikipedia. Everywhere there are whistleblowers in the West. But here, because even in China, Asia, in Japan, because we have this paternalistic culture, it is dangerous for because of its excessive obedience to authority. So this is the second cause of ethical blindness, which we can do research on. Third aspect is what is the impact of culture in your ethical behavior. And here I would like to talk to you about Adolf Eichmann. Briefly, because I like to go quickly because otherwise we lose time. So Adolf Eichmann was a Nazi criminal. I hope you would have seen the movie, The Operation Finale. This is available in Netflix. If you like watching movies, please see that. Operation Finale is about Adolf Eichmann. He was in charge of concentration camps. He escaped after the war, and then he was caught by by the Mossad from Argentina, brought to Israel, and then he was hanged. Before he was hanged, somebody asked him a question: "Do you regret? You have killed thousands and thousands of people in the concentration camp. Do you regret?" He said, "Why should I? Why should I regret? I was doing my job." Now, if you have seen a concentration camp, I had the opportunity when I was in Germany. I had the opportunity to visit one of the concentration camps in Germany. It's called Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. I don't know whether you have heard of Anne Frank. Anybody heard of Anne Frank? Yes or no?
Yes,
Anne
sir.
Frank. Anne Frank. Anybody?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anne Frank. She was one of the girls killed. She wrote a diary during her captivity or hiding. The Diary of a Young Girl is a beautiful book. You should read it. I read it, and then I thought I should visit her grave, and her grave was in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. I mean, it was a very emotional moment for him. So anybody who has seen that concentration camp would say, I mean, what heck? What is this about? Killing innocent woman, pregnant woman, old people. But why Adolf Eichmann was not concerned? And there was a lot of research on that. And Hannah Arendt, very famous French philosopher, researched his background, and she found that this guy Adolf Eichmann had a perfect childhood. Went to the Catholic schools, and he was God fearing, and then loving parents. Loving parents is very important these days. And then there is absolutely nothing wrong with this guy till he joined the Nazis as a clerk. You know, as a clerk, and then it changed. Everything changed. In a couple of years, he became one of those most cruel persons. And what was the variable here? What is the variable here? The variable here is the organization culture of Nazis. So, however be your integrity, if you join an organization and or in a particular place and the culture is not very ethical, the culture can totally change you. Culture can totally change you. Great people can become good people, can become totally unethical, again unconsciously because of the impact of the culture of the organization. So these are some of those causes for ethical blindness. Now I'll come to the biases, and here I'd like you to go through this very nice paper in HBR, written by Banaji et al. How unethical are you? So this slide is from that. So they talk about four types of common implicit biases in organization, and these are all very common, I can tell you. from my own experience. In group bias, the bias towards your own people, like I have a, you suppose I may have a caste bias, I may have a religion bias, I may region bias, I may, in India I may have a bias in an Indian organization, I may have bias, I am from Kerala, I may have bias towards Keralites unconsciously. So when I am writing the annual performance report of my subordinates, consider one is from Kerala, one is from Manipur, one is from Kashmir, one is from Gujarat. Unconsciously, my bias, because of my bias, I'll give a better rating to my subordinate who is from Kerala. This is in-group bias, much very common in the organization. Implicit prejudice against older people. And you can see that, I mean, the way people use what is that, Godrej black, or what are the other hair dyes, Schwarzkopf, or whatever new, I don't know the name of the sale of this hair dyes indicate the amount of bias we are having against old people. And this implicit, it's not that we want to we are conscious of these biases. There's a beautiful test called implicit association test, and this test has been also designed by Harvard University. You can search in the online, then you can take this test. You may be proud that you have no bias against religion or skin color, skin tone, or something else, and then after doing the test you come to know, oh my god, I was having this bias, I never knew about it. These sort of implicit prejudices without awareness can also cause this. This another variable you can work on. And conflict of interest is very common. Again, conflict of interest happens because if your self-interest, there's a conflict between your self-interest and the organization interest. So when I go to a location, new location, and then I have to get my children admitted in the school and all, then I find some of our business associates to help me to do that activity, and then conflict of interest arises. It's very common in the organization. Because of the conflict of interest, we do we do unethical activity unconsciously. These are areas which has not been researched at all, I can tell you. So these sort of biases can also cause unethical behavior. Now let me ask take the second poll. Take you to the second poll. You have to answer: is the population of Turkey more than 35 million? Yes or no? Murugan sir, can you help me to do that?
Yes, sir. Should I create the poll or just read out the responses?
Okay. Then you can even say, you can take a chat box response also. I mean, no problem.
Yeah, fine, sir. Yeah, kindly respond to this question. Is the population of Turkey more than 35 million? Most of the responses are no, sir.
No, okay. So now next question to you is, what is the best estimate of Turkey's population? What is the best estimate?
So please
That
try
also
to
in
respond to
million.
this. Yeah,
Yeah,
try to
in
respond
million.
to this question without referring any of the online sources.
Yeah, please don't Google it, please.
Yeah. One of the respondents says 60 million, 15 million.
Yeah.
10
So
to 15 million.
Yeah. So maybe around 15 to average 15 to 60 million or something like that, right?
Yeah. Any other responses?
Okay. So I don't know the data, but I will assume that, as what I've seen in other places also, that the answers will maybe something between, starting from maybe 10 or 15 and goes to 60 or 80 or whatever it is. The actual population, if you now Google, it will be something like 80 or 84 million.
Okay.
Now, when I ask this question to another group, and my question here would have been, what is the population? Is the population of Turkey more than 100 million? Say yes or no. And then again, they will say yes or no. And then when I ask this question, what is the best estimate of Turkey's population? Most of the people then gives me an answer starting from 80 million to 120 million. Why is it so? This is called the anchoring bias. When I say Turkey's population 35 million, this is the first time probably some of you had heard of Turkey's population. And the first number which has come to you is 35 million. You will never forget it. Now, even after 20 years, I may be dead, and of course, Dr. Murugan will be alive. 20 after
Don't say
20
that, sir.
no. After 20 years, if somebody asks you about this Turkish, what is Turkish population, the first number, I'm assuring you, the first number which is coming to you even after 20 years is 35 million. Somewhere it should be around 35 million, because that's the first information which has come to you about this. And this is the anchoring bias. This is called the anchoring bias. Now, how does it affect the organizations? Because many a time when the decisions are made, the first information comes to me about a particular decision problem impacts my decision, and therefore I unconsciously make a decision based on that first information I received. And there are other similar biases, implicit biases like confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is a bias that you look for confirmation. I don't like a guy. I don't like a guy. So then I look for information which is confirming my thought that this person is like this. I don't like, for example, I don't like maybe Imran Khan. Just I'll take an example. I may not like Imran Khan. Imran Khan is a liar. That is my. Then he may not be a liar. He may be saying something truthful, but I then twist it and all these things, and I only accept those information which confirms with me that Imran Khan is a liar. Status quo bias, that's also, so confirmation bias also affects us, our decision making. Status quo bias is that we are comfort in we feel comfortable in our status quo. We don't want to change it. So unconsciously we favor the existing contractors or existing contract, so that there is no pressure on us to pressure of change which happens to us. So the status quo bias can also cause unethical decision. And belief perseverance bias is very similar to confirmation bias. The belief perseverance bias, despite an evidence that what your belief is not true, you tend to ignore it. It's a belief perseverance. I feel that this guy is a fraud, and despite the information that he's not a fraud guy, I continue to believe it and damage his career in the organization. All these are implicit biases which damages the culture. Now, before coming to this thing, I just also want to tell you a brief about motivated blindness. Murugan sir, I may take a 5 or 10 minutes more than 1 hour.
Yes, sir. Fine, sir. Absolutely fine, sir.
Okay. So motivated blindness or moral disengagement strategies also we use. Sometimes we know that this is unethical, but then we feel that okay, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. For example, now you are. I'll take a research case itself. You prepare a paper, and then you send to a journal, gets rejected. Again, you send it, you reject it. How many times I can only tell you the disappointment I went through by multiple rejections before my papers were accepted in the A category journal. And toward the end, you find that, oh my God, I can't publish in a paper category paper at all. And then I can say, okay, because many of the same said data, this is not a very significant relationship. It's moderately significant. It is maybe at the 0.1 level and not 0.05 level or something like that. So then I said, why don't I manipulate certain data to bring it to hello? Balaji, I'll call you back. I'm in a session, right? So why don't I make it, test this data a little bit here and there so that it comes to 0.05 significance level, and I manipulate the data. I remove some of this data which is not helping me to 0.05, the sort of uh, improper research, and then it comes to, then I say, then I'm really guilty that if I do that, when I do that. But I said, yeah, what the heck? I mean, I so many rejection, and some of the rejection I feel that these are not. That's also a feeling we are having. Because this is biased rejection. Yeah, I'm from India or some, because these Europeans are holding the journals, and they care only for Western this thing. They don't understand our, because of language, some issue or some other thing. They keep on rejecting, and therefore I will nothing wrong with this. I mean, I did my best, but since they are doing it, I am not responsible. It is the journals and the system which is responsible. That is moral disengagement. um, Shifting of displacement of responsibility is not my fault, it's the journal's fault. Or it can also be diffusion of responsibility. Yeah, everybody is. I have heard once. I mean, from a very famous faculty in India, in a public VC, in a public forum, to tell that, okay, that is how the papers get published. Everybody is doing it here. I mean, that sort of thing. In a VC, I'm telling you, absolute lack of integrity. Yeah, everybody is doing it. Everybody is manipulating data. So why not me? It is not me who is responsible. These are exactly called moral disengagements. You can even do a research on among researchers itself on moral disengagement because of diffusion of responsibility. It's a great area. It happens multiple times every day in any organizations. It's not my responsibility. It is boss who has given me this sort of targets, stupid targets. Therefore, I am not responsible. Or somebody doing a malpractice, drawing wrong transfer benefits or traveling allowances. Yeah, everybody doing it. Everybody is giving calling their friends, and then giving them a dinner and putting that account into customer account. Everybody is doing it. So why not me? These are some of those moral disengagement strategies. We do it, we know initially, but then we disengage our consciousness, our guilt from that aspect, and then do this. Okay, two more slides. Then about ethical fading. Uh, there's a famous, very famous, very nice article by uh, Ten Brunsell. Ten Brunsell. Okay, Ten Brunsell, Brunscl, on this ethical fading. Please do read it. It's a wonderful, very engaging article. You should read it if you want to do research on this activity. So she has mentioned a couple of ethical fading. What is ethical fading? Ethical fading is just like a fading of your own cloth. Due to multiple uses, the colors of your cloth, it fades. Similarly, when there is multiple unethical behavior, unethical acts over a period of time, the color of the unethical activity, it was bright red initially. I mean, it always put up your antenna and you are feeling guilty about it. But that red color over a period of time, it starts fading and fading and fading, and it becomes completely faded white after a few years. That is ethical fading. How does it happen? There are interesting psychological processes: euphemisms, ethical numbing, and slippery slope. I just tell you in a very brief manner. Euphemism is saying about a good word about a bad thing. And the most commonly used euphemism in this country is gift for bride. You can do a multiple research on that aspect also. How euphemisms work in Indian conditions. We commonly use it. When I ask my subordinate to go and give a bribe of 30,000 rupees to some government authority to get some license for our new petrol pump, everybody will refuse. No, sir. Whom do you think I am? Sir. I am from a very nice family, sir. No, sir. Please don't tell me this, sir. I will not give any gift. I will not give any bribe to anybody. This is a natural tendency. If I tell him, better, you please go and give a gift, but and you take a good dinner set worth 30,000 rupees, he will very gladly go and take that gift and then give to this guy. There is no moral emotion coming up to which is giving you a red flag. It's a psychological process. Euphemism. It's a psychological process by which you become unaware of your own unethicality. Then ethical numbing. Ethical numbing is repeated use of unethical behavior. You every day, you first time you come late or take some stationery from the office and then go home, you have pinch of guilt. No, I should not have done this. You know, no, I should have. They say, but I say I want some paper, so I have done it this time. Okay, next time I will not do it. After some time, next time also you do it, you again feel a lesser pinch, and over a period of time, that pinch disappears totally. It's ethical numbing. Slippery slope. Slippery slope is you start something. There's big thief. They start from a small thing. People who come who are big frauds, they probably start stealing 10 rupee from their papa's father's pocket, and then slowly they become a big thief. They are not aware, they are not conscious, because the delta x plus delta x you understand, but delta x if keeps on adding, you don't perceive that delta x. So your brain is not able to perceive that delta x, again leads to ethical. So these are some of those concepts all of you can work on if you're interested to work in the field of morality and ethics. And this is what I did for the organization. And this is a paper Murugan sir was telling that which has been published recently, and along with one of the very famous authority, Laura Novel. She was at that time in the Imperial College London. She was the Imperial College London is in the world's maybe at the 9th or 10th rank in the overall university ranks. Now she is in France. She is the authority on focalism. So fortunately, I had a good friendship with her over a period of time, and then she came as a author for this. Now, what it says that what I told you about this thing, when the business goals are very difficult, uh, then and that difficulty, then people want to and difficult business goals are also associated with rewards by the organization, both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards in the organization. Okay, and therefore you start to think only about the achievement of that goals. How do I achieve that goals? How do I achieve that goals? And I earn self-respect, organizational legitimacy, and my own promotion or incentive. I started thinking it constantly. It comes to a cognitive bias called focalism, exaggerating, overestimating the emotional impact of that achievement. Overestimating the emotional impact of that achievement is something called thinking in vacuum. I am only thinking about achieving goals in whatever way. I may, for example, when I may construct a factory, and I was told that the factory should be constructed in such and such time, maybe in 6 months. How do I do most efficiently is that the factory is set up in 6 months, and sometimes we like to cut down the trees there, and we like to take emotional, we like to take environmental clearance, but then somebody suggests that that is exactly the experiment. It was an experimental design. But sometimes the consultant can help without going for environmental clearance, which may take much more time. So I will do some other ways of removing the trees. Socially irresponsible behavior. So because of that, uh, high difficult goals, and goal setting is there in every goal setting theory is there, and every organization in this world now you relies on goal setting theory for motivation, but it has got a negative effect. So that was the study about from the organization perspective, that we are saying that goal setting goals are not a panacea. It's not a panacea for everything. you have to understand both the explicit cheating associated with goals. That's also the explicit cheating, right? Because you say that university says that you have to publish two papers to be appointed as an associate assistant professor. Somehow you have to publish this two paper. So you, whatever may means ethical, unethical, you try to do it. That is explicit way of this thing. It's also because of that, I want to get that assistant manager's position, and therefore unconsciously, because of that excessive thinking, over exaggerating the impact of that my goal, I may also do things unconsciously due to my bias called focalism. That was the theory about, and how bounded ethicality caused that thing. So this is the my paper, the full paper. You can search here for complete details, the experimental design, the various studies we have conducted, and all these things. I would invite you to go through it to have a theoretical aspect. I basically showed you the organizational perspective, which you may find it difficult to get from others. But this aspect, the theoretical aspect, the methodology we have used and all, is easily available online. So you can search it and you can do it. I will not go for the managerial implication for you because my time is already over, and maybe I request Dr. Murugan to share my slide to them if you are interested in that managerial implication. The social importance, that is my final slide. How does ethical and social responsibilities impact us? Now, as researchers, we have to see. I mean, recently, Prime Minister Modi said that um, we have to make India a developed country in the next 25 years, right? 25 years. You know what is the poverty level in India? Poverty level in India is, according to one estimate, is 27%. That is 27% of people are barely able to survive in this country. Unless we do our work in a socially responsible manner, whether in research or in organization, how is it that we are going to, why India is lagging behind in research and compared to China? If you see the number of papers submitted by Chinese authors compared to Indian authors, is very huge and very relevant also. So my honest request as well as appeal to all of you is to focus on research which has got social relevance, which should be practicable. I mean, it should be implementable by organization and the society. There is no meaning in doing some research which is for which, some adding some moderator and some mediator just to make a paper and then doing some research if it has no social relevance, it has no managerial implications, it is nothing. So my honest request to all of you is to focus on this so that you will be remembered in future. All those best research which has happened, it has great managerial implications. So please focus on that aspect. That is what I request you to say with my final. Thank you very much. I will now. Any questions?